public art.
Sure.
So the vote by council.
The unanimous vote by council.
And what does this mean in terms of public art projects going forward? Because it sounds like not all are affected by this.
Yeah, so we won't start any new processes or issue any new requests for proposal for a few months while we sort this out. And essentially what council said was, look, we tried to fix this in 2014. For the vast majority of pieces that we commission, it works. However, for some it doesn't work, especially for big ones. And so it's time to take a step back and think about how we can do this better. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think any member of council thought there was anything wrong with it. That's why it passed unanimously. It's probably good. It is good policy.
Were you surprised to hear there are 54 more coming?
No, because remember, these are big and small. We've been doing a lot of infrastructure investments, and this is, maybe a little bit higher than the normal pace of activity of the city, but not that extraordinary.
Why can't we seem to get this right?
That's a great question. I think the vast majority of times we do get it right. But when we get it wrong, we do have the capability of getting it spectacularly wrong. So I hope that our tweak of the policy helps us fix the stuff we get right, but also prevents us from doing stuff wrong.
What did you think of Councillor Keating's suggestion, I guess, that the privately funded public art more often seems to hit the mark than public?
I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that it can go both ways. It all depends on who's on your jury and who's making the decisions. I think that Councillor Farrell's point was a very thoughtful one, in which she said we have to make sure that public art isn't the same as building a private collection. It isn't, we've got a Plenza, we've got a Geist, right? It is really about city building, and city building in locations where that city building needs to be, specifically about enhancing the community, and that's something I'd like to see going forward.
So perhaps more functional public art is coming?
Yeah, maybe more functional, but also maybe more interactive, maybe more whimsical. For me, the whole point of art is, and I always use the example of my favorite public art in the city, which is the public art at McKnight Westwood Station. The station itself is beautiful. The art is incorporated really well into the station, and there are different kinds of pieces that appeal to different kinds of people. But my favorite part is within the walls of the shelters, there are things like marriage photos and immigration certificates that were sourced from the people in the neighborhood. So that when you're taking the train on your dreary morning commute, you see something beautiful, and you also see something that makes you think. And I really like that, and I think the best public art can interact with the community in that way.
Sounds like from what Mr. Logan was describing, things are going to be a little different in terms of the 17th Avenue Southeast Transit.
Yeah, we very specifically wanted to exclude the 17th Avenue Transitway because there's a process going on right there that has enormous public support, that involves local artists, that does things that are really relevant to the community, and we wanted to make sure we wouldn't derail that one.
I wasn't here for the morning scrum for the arena.
Boy.
So if you're up for it, I was just wondering what your thoughts on, some people are seeing this as a hostage taking for a sports team to alter another election.
It is what it is. Mr. King said that it has nothing to do with the election timing and has nothing to do with the fully privately funded Seattle arena that was announced yesterday as well. I'll just have to take him at his word on that. As I said this morning, we remain at the table. We're still at the table. We have a very fair deal on the table, and we'll have more to say about that later this week.
So you don't see any bad faith going on here?
Sorry?
You don't see any bad faith going on?
We've been in good faith the whole time, and I think it's important to note that the city has been in good faith the whole time, and we'll continue to work in good faith.
Have you heard from Mr. King and there's a resumption of negotiations now?
No.
On another topic. Could I ask you about Contemporary Calgary
Sure.
and their decision to pull out of the old planetarium buildings?
Sure, this was always going to be a very challenging project. It was very ambitious. Contemporary Calgary needed to raise $30 million as well as figure out an operating model that would not take funding from other arts organizations in the city. In other words, an operating model that was self-sustaining. They knew it was going to be tough. The dedicated volunteers over there knew it was going to be tough. We knew it was going to be tough. But the city said, you know what, let's give it a go. It's worth taking a risk to see if we can actually make this thing fly in this model. And City Council committed about $24 million to the upgrades to that building and the renovations that are needed to the planetarium, with the full understanding, eyes wide open, that this was going to be tough. And if it didn't work, then we'd have to find a new model for contemporary art and go back to the drawing board. And that looks like that's where we are now.
So given that amount of money that the city was willing to put in, Why such a short lease period?
So I don't want to get down too far into the weeds on this, but the idea is that there is, I call it a trailer, it's not really a trailer. There's accessory space to the planetarium that Contemporary Calgary was interested in renting as a temporary gallery while they were working on the main piece. And so we said, on the temporary gallery, we don't know how long you're going to need it. Let's have a lease of some period that is then renewable, depending on how long you need it, while you figure out your plans for the big space. And it was a bit of a surprise to us that they said, no, we wanted a 10-year lease on the big space, even though we don't have the money to pay you the rent. So, these things happen in these negotiations, but I think what really happened is that the organization determined that this might be a little bit too big to chew.
Are we done here, or is there a possibility of something else?
The city's very open to looking at other options here. There may be partnerships that Contemporary Calgary wants to explore with other arts organizations. There may be other locations they want to explore. We are certainly not going to put padlocks on the doors of the planetarium or throw someone else in there immediately. We'll sit down and we'll have a good conversation.
Any other possible plans for that building?
Not that I know of. The city very open-mindedly and open-heartedly said, listen, we're not going to think about this. We know you have a tough plan. We're going to give you a real fair shot at it.